You are now listening to The Final Word, the number one Pacers podcast on the web, hosted by me, Raj, and my son, Preston. Pop by to listen to what we have to say about the state of your Indiana Pacers. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Final Word, the number one Pacers podcast on the web. I'm your host, Raj.
And I'm your co-host, Preston. We have a great show lined up for you today, but before we get to that, please make sure you share, like, and subscribe to The Final Word, and most importantly, hit that bell icon if you're watching on YouTube so you never miss a show. Plus, it would really help the production of the show.
So, Preston, we were talking earlier today. We were talking about what could the Pacers do to make the team better. Now, obviously, these picks we're going to talk about, these are complete fantasy picks, probably never going to happen, but each one of them has their own merit in their own right. So, one of the first people I thought of who I would like to see in a Pacers jersey is the one, the only, Paul George. I would love to see Paul George in a Pacers jersey one more time. Why do you say? Well, we just had Lance Stevenson come back for another reunion for his third time around. And now we got good old George Hill. Indiana George, we got George Hill, my man George. I love George Hill. I don't know why, I just do. But we got him. So it'll be nice, it just completely, just reminiscing back on old times. Just to have Paul George back on the team, have George Hill. How great would that be to have Paul George and George Hill back on the team together, along with Tyrese Halliburton dishing that ball, and then also good old Benedict Matheran, because he's going to be coming up pretty soon. He'll be in his second year as of next year, and he's going to, I think he's going to improve greatly. But Paul George, I think it'd be great to have him in a jersey one more time because we need somebody since Paul George has left, we have not had a small forward anywhere close to the caliber of Paul George. And I just think if we could have somebody like him for one, our defense would greatly improve. Would you agree?
Yes, for sure.
So our defense would greatly improve, which is very important because right now our defense, we are sagging terribly. We're 29th in the league, completely terrible. It's completely embarrassing because we used to be number one, number two. We be top in the defensive area. It was a given. And it was funny because Larry Bird was always concerned about our pace and us playing up tempo and scoring more points and whatnot. And so we've done that. We're scoring more points, but now
we've dropped defense.
Our defense has dropped, so it's completely terrible. Yeah. And the saying is defense wins games and defense wins championships. And when we had a top defense, even though our offensive scoring wasn't the top in the league, we were at the top of the league. We were number one, number two in the East. So I kind of wish we could get back to those old days. So I'm just reminiscing. I know Paul George is not the same Paul George he used to be. He's gotten older. You can have your opinion on him, one way or the other. But when he played against us, he looked like he was on a mission. And I was like, man, I wish I had him in a jersey. So I think it'd be fun to have him in a Pacer jersey just one more time. What do you think?
It would definitely be fun to see him in a Pacer jersey. With George Hill, it'd be like old times, and then maybe if Lance comes out of retirement, which I don't think that would happen. But, this is fantasy, so if that would happen, I think it would get a lot of people watching for sure. Tickets to be sold out too because Paul George came back and all that stuff. Just how LeBron came back in 2015, everybody's going crazy and stuff. They're like, oh, he came back to Cleveland, so they could kind of give a similar feel a little bit.
Oh yeah, kind of
not as much.
Not exactly.
He's
Cleveland.
Not. Yeah.
He's not from Indiana.
Huh?
Paul George isn't from Indiana like Cleveland or
True. So it wouldn't be as hyped, but it would still be hyped for sure, no doubt.
It'd be hyped. I think there'd be a lot of people who kind of be a little resentful even if he did come, but I think they just come around once he started, doing his thing. It'd be like, oh, we forgive and forget. But in regards to Lance Stevenson, I don't really think he's in retirement because he wants to be. Because I think he's only 31. How old is Lance Stevenson? 31 maybe? 32? He's not that. Lance isn't that old. But that brings me to my next one. I would love to see Lance Stevenson on the team again. So for you guys, if you guys don't know, I'm a huge Lance Stevenson fan. No matter how Lance plays. Obviously, I would like Lance to play good, but there's a huge chance he's not going to play good. But the main reason I like Lance is for his excitement. He always brings the excitement. The fans love him. Somehow, I don't know why, but we just can't get enough of Lance Stevenson in Indiana. Now, that being said, how would that work? How would that really affect? Actually, let's go back to Paul George. Paul George, how would that affect us in the East? How would we be a contender? Because we were at the top when we just had Tyrese when he was, before he got hurt and whatnot. We were like 6th or 7th, I think, right before he got hurt. How would that have affected the team if we had Paul George still playing while Tyrese was hurt?
Well, we would have another all-star on the team, so and a debatable superstar. So we would have a superstar / all-star on the team, and we would have another guy to where if Tyrese gets hurt again, or if he gets hurt, then one of them could still be there. Also, it would help us on defense, not hugely. He's not going to carry us from, what are we, 29th?
Yeah, 29th.
So he's not going to carry us from like 29th to number 2 again, but he would be one of those guys who can make a really great defensive play because we don't have very many. I can't really name somebody right now other than Miles Turner that can make a big defensive play. Miles with his blocks, but I'm more so thinking of like intercepting passes or like blocks too, or like trapping defenders because he's good at that too. So really good defensive plays like in late games because we've been good at getting close, but then we just need that one play like we're tied game and then the other team usually gets it and then they win the game. That's how we're usually at right now. We're like having really, really close games, and I think Paul George would come in and he would help us. For one, take over offensively, and then for two, give us really good defensive plays.
I agree 100%. Now, I'm glad you mentioned the defense because I do think we get a drastic upswing in our defense, at least while Paul George is on the court, because he's a top two-way defensive, offensive player. And honestly, I just think if Paul George and George Hill, who were on a top defensive team together, you can say what you want to say about George Hill, his scoring, whatever. If you got Tyrese Halliburton on the court, we'll be good. So, Paul George, George Hill, Tyrese Halliburton on the floor, because Tyrese is not bad with his defense. He's not bad. And then Benedict Matheran, and then Miles Turner. I think that would be a good, strong defense. Because if you think about it, honestly, a lot of our breakdowns happen between on defense. I've noticed have happened between Nembhard. He's been a breakdown on their defense. Duarte has been a breakdown on our defense, and Neesmith has been a breakdown on our defense. And then just bad turnovers. So I think if we could clean that up a little bit and have the veterans get in there, I think that'd be substantial because you still have your scoring because we'd still have Matheran. We would still have Halliburton out there for scoring. We'd obviously have Paul George for scoring. Miles Turner, he's becoming a scoring beast. So we'd be fine. So whoever's concerned about George Hill being on the court, don't be worried about George Hill being on the court because he knows how to run his plays. He knows how to do his position. He's not out there trying to be a scorer because we don't honestly need scorers all the time. Sometimes we just need good defense. But that being said, speaking of scorers, I know we just kind of mentioned Lance Stevenson. We won't really talk about it too much longer, guys, because if you're a Pacers fan. Hey, guys, we hope you've enjoyed this podcast snippet. If you'd like to continue the conversation with Preston and I, just click on the next video. But always be sure to like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you'll be automatically notified each time we release a new episode. But until then, Martin says... Peace!